Welcome to the Gen Gap, where time-tested leadership meets the demands of a new generation. I'm Maureen Fitzgerald, your host, bringing candid conversations with industry heavyweights. Together, we unpack how they are rethinking talent, culture, and leadership in the face of generational transition, AI disruption, and the rise of personal brand dominance. Today's guest is Cat Melo, known to many as Cat. She's a managing director at Morgan Stanley and serves as chief operating officer of the Specialty Solutions Group within investment management. Cat is known for driving transformational initiatives that elevate client service, business growth, and risk management. With 30 years at the firm, Cat has held senior roles across investment banking, institutional equities, and the office of COO. She's a leader in Morgan Stanley's diversity and inclusion initiatives focused on family life and wellness. She is also a member of the Boston Children's Hospital Philanthropic Board of Advisors and captain of Morgan Stanley's campus recruiting efforts at her alma mater, Columbia University. It is a pleasure to welcome Cat to the show. Cat, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you so much for having me, Maureen. It's great to be here.
I am so excited about this conversation. You have had an incredible 30-year career at Morgan Stanley. Love if you could share how you got to where you are today.
Thank you. Wow, that's really taking me back. I would say it's a little bit of a Cinderella tale. Maybe there's not really a Prince Charming involved, but there's certainly plenty of fairy godmothers, and I'll talk about that a little bit. But kind of really going back to the beginning, I was 7 years old when I came to America, and I didn't speak a word of English when I got off the plane. Was the fifth of six kids, so a large family, very dynamic, very fun. We had a very, fun family life, but it wasn't an easy life. Um, my parents were educated in Poland. My mother was an engineer. My father was a master electrician in the trade. They took service jobs when they came to this country to support our family. During that time, we really had to learn some survival skills in order to be able to navigate living in a new country. So things like when you really don't know the language, things like looking at facial expressions and body language and tone of voice and getting contextual clues, those are things that really helped us to succeed as a family. Unfortunately, we really had a tremendous blow when we lost our mother to a battle with cancer.
I am so sorry.
Thank you. Thank you. This happened right around the time that I was graduating from high school. And so, both culturally and financially, college wasn't even something that was on the horizon for me at the time. So I entered the workforce and I got a role as a sales assistant on the equity derivatives trading floor of a company called Morgan Stanley, which I at the time didn't even really know what they did. But it was very interesting and very exciting and thrilling. I could tell it was a big deal right away. And so I tried to become the go-to person for anything that anyone needed. If there was a solution to be found, I either wanted to help find it or find the person that could. And over the years, that's really become part of my brand and part of the way that I've been able to succeed. Now, fast forward about 10 or 15 years into the time at the firm, and I'm switching roles, taking opportunities, meeting new people, and really starting to understand how the firm works. And one of the things I noted is that there were so many interesting and generous people with their time and their energy that really took the time to help me learn about their roles and their businesses. But also, I do think it's the fabric of Morgan Stanley that anything that I wanted to learn or get exposure to, if I went to a manager and said that, they would find a way to make that happen for me. So they would staff me on a project that were of something I wanted to learn, or introduce me to a subject matter expert, a colleague that I could work on something with, or just take me under their wing and help me. And I learned then that people genuinely want to help if you've demonstrated your work ethic, if you've been a helpful person to begin with. There really is that reciprocity, and that's something that you can rely on. It was also pointed out to me that if I wanted to advance my career any further, I was going to need a degree. So Meanwhile, life was happening. I got married. I have two amazing daughters. Um, I was also newly divorced and a cancer survivor. So, do I want to take that on? But Morgan Stanley had a great tuition reimbursement program. So I went to Columbia University. I worked full time. I went to school full time. I raised my children as a single mom. And I'm not saying that pat myself on the back. The reason I share that often is to say that you cannot do something like that alone. It requires, some people call it a village or a
Mhm.
network or maybe those fairy godmothers, right? But it's really the investment that I made over that 10 to 15 years of getting to know people and helping wherever I could. I could rely on that help coming back to me. And they really did. They really stepped up for me. So it was a wonderful opportunity to go to Columbia University. I learned so much, and at the end of that, I took on additional responsibility at the firm and really took on a couple of pivotal roles that I think really shaped my career. One was the opportunity to be part of a team that reintroduced alternatives into Morgan Stanley Investment Management, and it was valuable experience of how to establish a department within a major organization, right? So operations, legal and compliance, technology, sales, marketing, the entire infrastructure that you need to establish a business, I was able to work on that. And that prepared me for a role in the Office of COO of MSIM Alternatives, which was a phenomenal learning opportunity. And I got to work with so many incredible professionals and investment teams and learned so much from an amazing manager and mentor and sponsor. In 2021, Morgan Stanley partnered with Eaton Vance through an acquisition. I'm sure your viewers are familiar with Eaton Vance, but it was a very well respected and regarded investment management firm in Boston that had a suite of products that were so differentiated and really dovetailed so nicely with the MSIM suite of products. And so, that partnership was a tremendous asset to strengthen our organization. But as you can imagine, integrating two firms together can always be a challenge. And so it was then that I had the great privilege to move from New York to Boston to help support the integration efforts, but also serve as sort of a cultural liaison, if you will. And it's been a tremendous honor to work shoulder to shoulder with my legacy Eaton Vance, new Morgan Stanley colleagues. They welcomed me with open arms. And it was a wonder. I learned from them every single day. And I hope and believe that I was able to demonstrate for them the value of becoming part of Morgan Stanley. So I'm now privileged to serve as Chief Operating Officer of one of the business lines there. And it's working with an incredible investment team that has supported and sponsored me for additional growth in the organization. So I guess that brings me to today. And in July of this year, July 15th, I observed my 30-year anniversary at Morgan Stanley.
Congratulations.
Thank you. It's been a wild ride for a kid from Eastern Europe who didn't speak a word of English when she got off the plane, and I'm super grateful.
Yes, that is so inspiring. There's so many nuggets in that story, and some that I can relate to. I think that a lot of people talk about mentors, and mentors are really important, but it's often the sponsors that are really the ones that are influential in your career, that they're giving you opportunities. They are putting your name in the hat when opportunities are coming up. And then I also, as a mother of four children, I always said it takes a village. And I have an incredible neighborhood of women that allowed me to work.
And you know what's great, Maureen, is it's so valuable to have that, and we feel very grateful when we do. But it's also such an amazing feeling to be part of that for others when you have the opportunity to do that, right? That feels so good. And it's that, it's kind of that give and take, and people call it paying it forward, but it that really is a very, I would say, meaningful part of being a manager and a leader in an organization is the ability to support others that are coming up.
Can you describe a moment or a challenge that you faced early in your leadership journey?
Yes. So I was thinking about that. And I think really a defining moment for me was when my manager pointed out to me that in order for me to progress further, I was going to need to get a college degree. And the reason that was defining for me is before then, it never occurred to me that I could do more. And in that moment, I realized that my manager and my firm were willing to invest in me. They believed that I could do more. They believed that I could potentially manage, that I could lead, and they were prepared to invest in me through this education to be able to have the toolkit and the skill set to be able to execute on that. And I wish that I had seen that potential in myself sooner, but I'm really grateful that they did. And that got me thinking about things different.
And so, how are you thinking about the next generation in your organization that are kind of where you were at that point?
Yeah, I mean, I have tremendous confidence in the next generation. They're incredibly talented. They're incredibly smart. They're so resilient. I'm impressed every day. There's that expression, surround yourself with people smarter than you. And oh my God, do I? They're like an amazing cohort of professionals and colleagues. Like I mentioned, they're resilient. I mean, they navigated their education and career during a pandemic, and they deliver very strongly every day. Um, if I do have a concern, it's more around them investing in building skills that they may not realize they're going to need later. I mentioned some of those that skill set that I needed when I didn't speak the language, right? Like observing people, their body language. That continues to be true, even, especially within an organization. It's very hard to motivate a team over email. It's very challenging to navigate the complexities of an organization through Teams or Zoom. You need that face to face in the room engagement with your partners. Management and leadership, especially, requires genuine human connection.
And so, what is your vision for the future of Morgan Stanley over the next 3 to 5 years?
Well, it's actually really great timing that we're talking right now because in September, Morgan Stanley observed its 90th anniversary. And it's remarkable to me that I have had a front row seat and maybe a part in, sort of influencing somewhat or shaping a third of the firm's lifetime. That blows my mind a little bit. But upon reflection, the longevity of Morgan Stanley, I think, is in part due to a consistent purpose, right? We raise, manage, and allocate capital for our clients. We help them reach their goals, and we've done that for 9 decades. We've done it very well, and it is the goal of every part of the organization to do it better every single day. That said, I would say my vision over the next 3 to 5 years is aligned with the firm's vision, and that is to become more of an integrated firm. And what does that mean? It means that we're delivering our full set of capabilities to all of our clients. And we can only do that through partnering with other parts of the firm, to getting to know our colleagues, getting to know what they offer. We think about it in sort of four pillars. Obviously, the strategy that I described, the culture of rigor, humility, partnership, having financial strength, and then, of course, also continuing to invest in our growth.
And so, you touched on culture. What role does culture play in your organization?
It's tremendous, right? I mean, it's huge. You can have a strong balance sheet, you can have a strong strategy, but if you don't have a cohesive team of people that is able to work together and execute, those other things don't matter. And I probably am a little bit of a culture poster child at the firm, and I don't mind that, where it was a badge of honor. But there's a few things about culture I'd love to share with you. One is one of the reasons that I have stayed at the firm, I think, for as long as I have, is I have always felt supported as an employee, right? Even things like like the benefits that Morgan Stanley provides to our employees to help them navigate life have been great. I also have 4 children. And so, things like medical benefits, maternity leave, the tuition reimbursement program that I talked about. During the pandemic, there were so many wellness benefits and initiative that the firm offered, and that's so important. If your employees don't feel supported and don't receive from you the tools that they need to stay healthy, to stay balanced, that that's not a good recipe. And I think Morgan Stanley does a really good job at that. The other piece is it sort of alludes to what I was speaking about before, and that's having those interpersonal skills. I think that in the digital forward world in which we're operating and living, that's not something that's going away, and we need to engage in that. It's innovation, right? So we need to be able to use all of the latest innovation and technology, use it very well, and then things like enhancing our productivity through use of AI and all of the other tools that are becoming available to us. We want to make sure that we're on the cutting edge and the forefront of that. However, we want to also make sure that we're not sacrificing our ability to interact genuinely with each other as humans. So sometimes, I'll observe things like, uh, it's easier to just take your call from, to do a meeting from your desk on Teams or Zoom, even though there's folks meeting. Or sometimes it's easier to try to send a chat or a message or an email when it can be so much more effective to just pick up the phone or go stop by someone's office or desk. And uh, nurturing and developing those skills, I think is something that we need to invest in. So at Morgan Stanley, I love, especially since the integration with Eaton Vance, we've really reinvigorated our employee networking groups, which are they actually have their own funding and investment and resources, and it's an opportunity for us to create programming, content, and events for our employees to get together to get to participate in conversations around things that matter to them as a particular cohort of the population, or just have socializing opportunities to get together or participate in a particular event. I have the privilege of serving as a co-chair in Boston of the Family Employee Network there, and also the chair of the well-being pillar of the Family Employee Network at the firm level. And obviously, I'm passionate about that because I have children. And just as an example, an event that we're sponsoring in October is a conversation with a scientist and a former social media executive to talk about what is the impact on our brain development, on our behavior, and on our mental health through the use of digital technology. Is there an impact? And if so, what is it? And if there is, which I think is hard to contradict that that point, what are tangible ways that we can find the appropriate balance so that we are leveraging innovation, but also protecting ourselves and not losing out on some of the important tangible human elements. So that's a panel that I'll be moderating and a major event that I'll be hosting, and I'm so excited about that. I think those types of events and tools is something that's very important for us to bring to our teams.
I mean, there's not a parent out there that is not concerned about how to set the correct boundaries for online usage, and it's a challenge. It's difficult to implement.
100%.
And so how do you get ideas for what your employee networking groups want to hear about?
We go straight to the constituency, if you will, right? I mean, we have champions throughout our organization that are sort of boots on the ground, and they talk to their fellow employees, and they let us know what's on their mind. We're always, open to suggestions. As sometimes we're driven, like there's certain months of the year that have a particular focus, and sometimes we'll put our programming around that, like Women's History Month. So we'll offer programming in that space. And it's also sometimes just in response to what's happening globally, what's happening locally. And we try to keep our finger on the pulse of what our employees, what our organization needs, and try to deliver on that.
Excellent. So if you could give yourself a piece of advice at the start of your career, what would it be?
To believe in myself sooner. And like I mentioned, it never occurred to me that I could do more, that I could contribute more meaningfully, that I could be more valuable than I was at a certain time in my career. I was just kind of, yes, taking opportunities to learn, absolutely, growing as much as I could. But I wish that I had realized sooner that I could do more. And that's something that I try to stress, not just to my team members, um, within the organization, but it's something that I stress very much to my children as well. I have 3 daughters and 1 son, and, um, and that was a blind spot for me, that I think held me back for a little while, until a manager pointed out that the firm had more confidence in me. And so, I think it's really important, to have confidence in ourselves and to believe that we can do more because we can. Over the course of my time at Morgan Stanley, and I alluded to this before, I genuinely believe that most people really want to help. They want to give of their time, they want to give of their experience and their energy. And all it often takes is just the willingness to ask. It does feel vulnerable to say, "Could you talk to me about your career path? Could I get some advice from you about my career?" And I think young people in particular sometimes feel really hesitant to be uncomfortable in that way to make that ask, and that saddens me because any request like that I get, and there's a lot, I'm going to take it. I will sit down with you. I will talk with you. I'm so happy to hear what you're thinking about, what you're interested in. I want to know what matters to you so that as an organization, we can be responsive to that and support that. And anything that I have learned, I'm so willing to share if it helps anyone else.
So this leads me to my final question. What legacy do you want to leave as a leader in the industry? You've touched on a lot of things that you are leaving, but I'd love to hear how you would summarize that.
That's such a wonderful question. Um, and I'm not done yet. So, but I have to,
Of course not.
I think it's still evolving. But I think that a few things. Uh, if I can help others see the potential in themselves and appreciate and understand the investment that the firm is willing to make in them, and and that they can challenge themselves and push themselves to contribute meaningfully to the organization and to our clients, I would love that. And if I can also contribute to the culture of the organization in a way that absolutely keeps us on the front lines of innovation and delivering the absolute best to our clients, but does not sacrifice the human element, in fact, protects it and nurtures it, because I do think that that will end up being a competitive advantage for us. So if I can help to inform the culture in a way that prioritizes our employees. If an employee base feels um, supported, nurtured, cared for, appreciated, morale is excellent, and then they will deliver very strongly on behalf of our clients.
Kat, thank you so much for being on today. You're an inspiration. I think a lot of people are going to be helped based on your comments.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.